Hey guys, so in this video I want to talk to you about how to use typology in a way that benefits you. And typology can be an incredible tool for self-improvement. I'll let you know why. I want you to think of typology as a tool. A tool can be either beneficial for you or detrimental for you, depending on how you use it. And I want you to know that is the key. It depends on how you use it. So some people, when they go into typology, they have the mindset of, okay, so this if typology is beneficial and it's good, then it's true. If it's detrimental and false, it is bad. I want you to take a leap and think one step beyond this. Think in terms of anything that I encounter and learn, I shall benefit from. I'll find a way to learn something from it. And this is a very powerful concept because anything that you encounter in life will always, it will always benefit you. So this is something that comes from the philosopher Hegel. He says, instead of going to something and try to figure out, oh, this is false, try to figure out why it is false, right? Instead of doing that, you could find out what you could learn from it. So come into typology with that kind of mindset. So, and if you do, you'll reap really good rewards from it. So the thing is, I think one thing about typology is that it is a tool, right? And the power is really in your mind. So some people project all that power onto the tool itself. And that's why they think that typology has all that power to it about like, oh, it could cause so much benefit, it could cause so much detriment. No, it is you that does that, right? The power of typology is in the knowledge, right? So whether a tool is beneficial or not, whether it's beneficial or not, really reflects the degree it reflects reality, right? If it's true to reality, true to the world, and then you take it to the next step and you think about how am I going to take this tool and use it to my own benefit. So the thing is, you could use typology in a way that's very detrimental. And what I mean by that is that, okay, so you go into typology, you get really excited about it because you learn all these like very beneficial things. Like, for example, you learn about your own nature, right? You learn about how you tick. And suddenly a lot of things start to like make sense, right? In terms of your relationships with others and your relationship to yourself. And then you start to use typology in a way that is negative. You start to see people one-dimensionally. You start to think, oh, my type is better than other types. And that's a very common thing that actually ends up weakening yourself. So you think that would put you beyond others by thinking about how your type is superior, but actually that's almost like, that actually weakens you because it does not inform you about what actions you need to take in order to become a better person. So when it's used that way, then it's detrimental. The detriment really is in your mind and not in the tool. You made it detrimental. So in that case, sometimes it's good to take a break from typology, right? And you could come back to it with another mindset, with another mindset, right? Or, sometimes you could just put it away and say typology is not for you. But that doesn't mean that typology is not true, right? It's how you use it. And I want you to know that it's normal to use it in a negative fashion. That's true for anything. When you learn anything new, or even for a long time, right? You could pick up good habits, you could pick up bad habits. So like if I'm playing guitar, right, I could keep practicing the bad habit over and over again, right? Or I could, make good habits, and that's part of the normal process. I think that's part of growth is when you start to use it, right? And you just go in and use it and not be too afraid about, whether you're using it bad or good way. You just go and you learn. Have the attitude of I'm going to learn, and you have that kind of attitude. And when you get into it, then you make the mistakes. So when you do something that is bad, it's really about you're making a mistake, but you're learning from it. So that's why I don't want you to think, okay, just be afraid of like using it the wrong way. That it's just part of the process. So I want to talk about how you could use typology to your benefit, right? And one thing is the understanding that your type behaves in a certain typical kind of way. You understand the typical behaviors and patterns of your type, right? And a lot of those are kind of unconscious. So when you become aware of those patterns, you could overcome those patterns. It's not like so much you're breaking out of your type, but it's more like you're making use of the pattern. You're making use of how your type does certain kinds of things, and then you're changing that, right? You're changing that, and you're kind of moving it around to your own benefit, right? So I kind of like look at it very statistically. So your type has a normal progression of growth, because if you really look at typology, you could see that internal mechanism for personal growth, often in the form of integrating the inferior function, for example, right? So your type goes like this, and then it goes like this, right? But then if you already know what the pattern of growth is, and you see what causes it, then you could kind of change that around, and you go like this, and you could start to do things that are beyond what's average for your own type. And this is absolutely possible, because if you look at the brain scans of people of certain types, if you look at Dario Nardi's studies, at first the brain when you look at the scan, it activates in a certain kind of way. There's certain parts of the brain that lights up for that type when the type is young, right? But then older members of the type, their brain pattern is different. The parts of the brain light up which are not typically lit up before, right? So I'll give you another example. So say like as an INFP, I don't value extrovert feeling, right? So when I encounter extrovert feeling in others, my own instinctual reaction is to be opposed to it. So when I hear it, I start to be opposed to it. And maybe over time, over a long period of time, I start to see what the value is on my own. But if you have typology, you can learn that instantaneously, right? So when I encounter extrovert feeling in my life, then I start to think about, I could become aware and notice my own reaction to it, my own being repelled by it. This is kind of like a form of mindfulness, right? Once you learn the tool, you could start to see how you react. So I want you to understand that how you react is not wrong. It's just what you do with that reaction. And over time, you could slowly change that reaction over time. It's not something that you just immediately change, right? So I could feel that opposition, but then I try to understand the extrovert feeling point of view, and I try to also integrate that point of view in myself, right? And therefore I start to individuate and become a more well-rounded person, and not just a stereotype of my type, but I integrate the function, right? So the tool is so valuable because, the thing that's unconscious, because my opposition to it is so ingrained in my brain, I'm not going to know, because in my own reasoning, of course, of course extrovert feeling is wrong, right? But then if I have the mindset of, okay, now I know people do this function, right? So there must be a certain value to it. So this is, again, the kind of the attitude of anything you encounter, you could benefit from. This goes with people too. So any person you encounter, you could benefit from them. You could learn something from them, right? So if you use typology and you start to realize, in a negative sense, in a way of like thinking, oh, no wonder I'm opposed to extrovert feeling. No wonder extrovert feeling is stupid. And therefore you don't change from there. Then of course it's going to be detrimental, and you're going to look down at extrovert feelers, right? But then if you have the mindset of, oh, so a lot of people have this as a valued function. What can I learn from this? Then it's different. Then you could overcome the pattern, right? So in my next video, I'm going to talk a lot more in depth about how you could change the patterns of your type in a very natural way.